Hi, and welcome to Code Corner. This is a video series we do at Mayfield Renewables where we talk about the codes and standards as they relate to the solar and solar plus storage industries. And today I'm going to talk more about International Fire Code. I had an introduction video that we've done previously. And in this video, I'm going to talk about spacing and location of energy storage units. And in this case, the focus is going to be around residential applications. We'll have another one where we talk about commercial applications or non R3 and R4 dwellings, as we'll look at here the language in a minute. But if you are working in energy storage and specifically with batteries and you're doing residential applications, 1207.11 is going to be where you're going to go to look at the rules specific for those residential applications. I know we don't talk a lot about like residential specific type applications, but in this video, that's what we're going to do, looking at the spacing and separation that we have for that type of application explicitly. So just to kind of set the stage, 1207.11, just going to look at some of the subsections there that we have. And so you can see there's, we have 11.1 through 11.4 that we're showing you on the screen here. And there's more to it. It goes all the way to 11.9, but really the gist of what I'm going to talk about here in this video is really in the first four, and really even in 2, 3, and 4, even most specifically. So a lot of times we're working on, within the installation, we're going to think about what the spacing is, how far apart we're going to put these units, the location where we actually can install them, and then the ratings, the energy ratings of our energy storage systems. So all of those come into play. They're defined in 1207.11. And again, we're specific for these R3 and R4 occupancies. R3, your residential, your one and your single family homes, your duplexes, those are fall square in those R3 categories. R4 is, gets into other types of residential applications. So if you want to, go to look at the definitions, they're in the IFC definition section. They're also in the International Building Code. Make sure that you're falling into those right applications. But for the most part, residential 1 and 2 family dwellings, you're squarely in that spot. So let's talk about spacing first. Spacing of our units, you can see the language there. So what code is giving us is this requirement, some charging language around basically how we're going to install these, how we're going to space these units. And we have the language there. So we're going to separate each unit shall be separated from the other by 3 feet, except where smaller distances are documented based on large-scale fire test. So pause right there. The large-scale fire test, that gets into the 9540A testing method that we have another video talking about the large-scale fire test. It's kind of as a standalone. It's kind of a big topic, and so we have a dedicated video for that. So I encourage you to take a look there. But the big thing here is whenever we have our units, we're going to have a 3-foot separation. And you can see there that we're showing some doors and windows as well as the individual units themselves. So just think about in residential applications, we have a 3-foot separation for those. We're going to get into the energy ratings here in a couple minutes, but just for the moment, we're going to keep those spaced 3 feet apart. Now we do have, again, that exception there saying, hey, if you can show from testing that we can place those closer together, and that satisfies the fire code official, then by all means you can do that, install those something closer. But the charging language says 3 feet. And then moving on into the location, I'm not going to read all of these out to you, so if you want to hit pause on the video, take a minute to read these. But what it's getting into is just saying, hey, here are the locations where you can install the energy storage systems. Again, residential focus on this one. And so we have multiple locations where we can put these, install them, and be in compliance. And we have a little bit of direction there. So you can see we can put them in garages, we can put them in outdoor buildings, we can put them outside. And so number 3 there from that previous slide where I was showing the 3 feet separation from the windows and doors, that's where we're getting that specific requirement for that separation. And then we get a little bit of direction here on if you are in some spaces, you might have to add some gypsum board, you might have to add some fireboard so that we are protecting those rooms a little bit more. And really the intention here is we want to make sure that if there ever is an issue, that we are giving the firefighters time to respond, get on site, set up. And so we're creating a delay. You know, if there is a fire, we're trying to just create this delay of the fire spreading to other parts of the house. That's where this is coming in. So it's not that we are expecting a fire from a battery system to last a certain amount of time, but rather we're just giving firefighters this leg up, this ability to get there and start, you know, doing what they need to do for any sort of firefighting activity. All right, so the last thing I'm going to talk about with regards to 1207.11 is here on the energy ratings. And so we'll go through all of this, but let's kind of pick it apart a little bit and talk about first that first sentence. So individual ESS shall have a maximum rating of 20 kilowatt hours. And so what we're talking about here, we saw an image earlier of those different boxes on the house. Those are essentially what in this case, what our units are and what they're referring to for within the fire code. I'll show you an image coming up here in a minute. We're going to tie it all together, but our units in this case are going to be how much storage we have, what are the kilowatt hour storage that we have. So however, you know, the modules within those that are a listed assembly, and that's put together. And the 20 kilowatt hours is just that threshold that we have for our residential applications. So we'll have individual boxes put together. Now we can take multiples of those and aggregate them into a amount of energy storage we have total. And what you see there is we actually list out 4 different locations for those. So you see we get 40 kilowatt hours essentially inside of the residence, not in living areas, not in bedrooms and stuff like that, but in very specific locations. And so there's that allowance. One thing I'm going to point out really quick is because I know there are jurisdictions throughout the country where while IFC says basements is a location where you can put this, I've talked to installers and jurisdictions where basements are just off the table. So if you're trying to install ESS inside of a basement, I would highly recommend talking to your fire code officials before going down that path too far, because there are jurisdictions that are just not allowing that to happen. Moving on though, the others, we have, you know, detached garages, detached accessory structures, or attached garages, I should say, attached or detached garages or accessory structures, 80 kilowatt hours. You can put 80 kilowatt hours outside on an exterior wall. You can put it on another 80 on the ground outside, you know, off the building. So there's these different areas that we have where you can install an aggregated amount of energy. A common question that comes up is, can I install these amounts in these different areas and have 40 in a utility space, have 80 inside the garage, have 80 outside? And the answer is yes. When you're looking at this, you can exceed these values for any individual area, but as long as you do that, as long as you keep within those values, then you can put in even more. So in this case, if you hit the numbers just right and you put them in all these different areas, you could have 280 kilowatt hours of storage in this residential application. So not something that maybe necessarily you're going to see a lot of, but it does give you a little bit more, some more options if you wanted to put some more storage in, but you max out any one of these spaces. Now, last thing I want to note, we don't have it on the language on here, but there is language around this that says if you want to exceed the individual unit rating or the aggregated storage rating, you can, but what's going to happen is the code is going to push you back into 1207.1 through .9. So what that essentially means to you is you're going to install these as if they were a commercial application. So this means, yeah, you can have a 30, 40 kilowatt hour unit, but now you have to follow the rules of commercial installations, which are typically just going to be a little bit more arduous and more difficult to comply with. And so keeping within these limitations is really helps you out, and it behooves you as on the residential application side. But there are options to go larger if you want to. All right, so here's that image I talked about where we're kind of pulling everything together. So again, we're seeing 20 kilowatt hour units, and these are what the UL listed. So the UL9540 listed unit, that's what we have there. And each one of those are going to be, again, the base language or the charging language says keep them 3 feet separated from each other, windows and doors, and then we have certain kilowatt hour limitations, aggregated kilowatt hour limitations we have in these different areas. We do have the ability to place them closer, and meeting those requirements by those exceptions that we talked about. So definitely things to look at and things to understand for your size and separation for these residential applications. All right, so that's going to really wrap up talking about our size and separation. And just encourage you all to take a look at our website. We have lots of courses that go over different aspects of solar and storage codes, standards, and things like that. So would love to see if there's something that you're looking to learn and have any questions, take a look at our website and see if any of those courses might be able to help you out. And then finally, questions or comments are always welcome. So our contact info is here. If you have a question or comment on this specific video, feel free to leave it. If you want to hear on a different topic, or if there's other subjects that are, think might be good for future Code Corners, would love to hear from you on that as well. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it and look forward to seeing you on the next Code Corner.